So this conversation is gonna make some of you salty. For whatever reason, chiropractic therapy is very popular on YouTube, and there are quite a number of famous chiropractors that do very well with their content. Several of you have sent videos to me for review, and I have either created content that critiques the techniques that I have seen or that discusses the relationship between chiropractic therapy and orthopedic surgery. But that is all rather general in nature.
For those of you who missed that, Dr. Raynor is showing a fight between these two professions. And the red boxer, which is the chiropractor's, head is knocked off. I am uncertain why there would be a debate between our two professions. I send my patients out to orthos all the time, but okay.
Today, I want to tell you why the average person does not need a chiropractor, or at least chiropractic manipulation, despite what they might tell you to treat their back pain.
This is both a chiropractic teaching video and a video refuting the talking points of Dr. Chris Raynor. I'll be responding to two of Dr. Raynor's chiropractic videos. One is Orthopedic Surgeon Explains 5 Reasons You Don't Need a Chiropractic Adjustment for Your Back Pain. Video 2, Chiropractic Almost Killed This Patient. Dr. Raynor is smart, he's intelligent, he's got the gift of gab, he's quick on his feet, his videos have humor in them, and he is not a big fan of chiropractic. Personally, I don't wish to do this video. You never want to be in this guy's crosshairs. Then why am I doing this video? Roe versus Wade is a good example that times and laws change. This is a remembrance that things are not stable no matter what they appear to be. Currently, the laws support chiropractic. If enough influential people who do not understand spinal manipulation, like Joe Rogan, Yvette D'Entermont, Miles Power, and Dr. Raynor, go unchallenged, one day these non-chiropractic experts may influence society to the point where the laws may not be beneficial to our profession. I can defend chiropractic, and I can defend chiropractic theory. Before I start this video, I want to make something very clear to the members of my profession. We need our critics to keep us sharp and on our toes. We must be able to explain chiropractic from a modern scientific perspective, or we are a religious cult. Our critics give us structure and something tangible to work with in our explanation of our profession. There are a few challenges in doing this video. One is when I watch Dr. Raynor cringe at some of my chiropractic colleagues, I'm cringing as well. I'm not in agreement with every style of chiropractic or the way chiropractic is always practiced. I want to separate the theory of chiropractic from the practice of chiropractic. Let me use an analogy here. A scalpel is a tool. The outcome of that tool's use is dependent upon the individual wielding it. Chiropractic is a tool. The outcome of that tool's use is also dependent upon the individuals wielding it. Before we move forward, I want to discuss this cover of Dr. Raynor's video. Chiropractic is so safe that when extreme injuries happen, it makes the news. These stories receive so much airtime because of their infrequency that it distorts the safety of chiropractic.
This 28-year-old woman was paralyzed by a chiropractic adjustment. Meet Caitlin Jensen, a Georgia Southern graduate whose life took an unfortunate turn during a regular visit to a chiropractor. Caitlin was experiencing stiffness in her neck after long periods of sitting at a desk while studying for finals. She was otherwise healthy and active. She had visited her chiropractor for similar issues in the past. Unfortunately, this time,
4 arteries were ruptured. She suffered a stroke and cardiac arrest.
and you know how I feel about chiropractors. Or, well, dodgy chiropractic techniques. I suggest you buckle your seatbelts. We've got a lot of ground to cover. I can only imagine how terrifying this was for her mother, who received a concerned call from her chiropractor.
I got a phone call from her phone, but it was actually the chiropractor. He told me that she was having a reaction to the treatment.
I wonder if he used those exact words, reaction to the treatment. Is that a common euphemism for multiple ruptured arteries, a stroke, cardiac arrest, and paralysis that I don't know about? The truth is that Caitlin almost died.
Now that is tragic and a horror for all parties involved. Healthcare is not without risk. For example, if you type in medical deaths per year in the United States, you'll find several different figures, ranging from a high of 250,000 to 44,000 to 98,000 to the lowest figure of 7,100. If we divide these numbers by 365 days per year, we get a daily death rate of between 684 to a low of 19. Using the most conservative number, 19 Americans die every single day due to medical errors. Humans make mistakes. Doctors are humans, so they make mistakes. It's tragic, but to single out our profession, which medicine has been doing for a very long time, distorts reality. Let me counter Dr. Raynor's video thumbnail with this thumbnail. This patient, Jesica Satillian, had received a new set of lungs and a heart. Close to the end of her surgery, the surgeon asked what was the blood type of the new organs compared to the blood type of Jesica. To his horror, he and his team discovered they were not the same. The doctor was confident, skilled, loving, and kind, yet he and his entire team had overlooked this one extremely important detail. The doctor spoke to the family, told them the surgery was a success. Oh, and we mismatched the blood type of the organs. 2 weeks later, new organs were obtained and Jesica had a second operation. By then, Jesica had suffered irreversible brain and kidney damage. She died a few days later. So we have a reference using the most conservative number. Medicine causes the death of 19 patients per day. Chiropractic causes the death of 1 patient every 3 years. We will cover more on this topic later on. The second challenge in doing this video is due to Dr. Raynor's gift of gab. He covers a lot of ground, making responding to all his talking points a non-possibility. I will show segments of Dr. Raynor and then respond to his most important talking points. I will tell you the 5 reasons you do need a chiropractor to treat your body pain, your startle reflex, your stress levels, which affect your sleep, your balance, and your head injury. Dr. Raynor and most of our critics are unaware of the difference between traditional theories of chiropractic and more modern approaches. Modern chiropractors take a much more scientific approach to healthcare. Practitioners who embrace theories from a previous generation are not concerned with overstimulating a patient's nervous system. They embrace the outdated and inaccurate theory of the pressure on nerve model. These are the most prominent chiropractors on YouTube. Our critics no doubt think these are the flag bearers of our profession. Please, let us not confuse popularity with competency. Modern models of chiropractic are taught by intelligent individuals who also teach modern chiropractic. Contrary to our critics' opinions, the daily danger in chiropractic is not a stroke. Let us listen to Dr. Raynor explain to us the dangers on chiropractic. I want to bring your attention to the colors. Anything in purple is something I have laid over someone else's video. It is to give context to what the individual is saying or talking about.
Another study by Dr. Edzard Ernst, published in the International Journal of Clinical Practice back in 2010, sheds more light on the problem. His goal was to summarize all cases in which chiropractic spinal manipulation was followed by death.
This is the article that Dr. Raynor is referencing. Numerous deaths have occurred after chiropractic manipulations. The risk of this treatment by far outweigh its benefits. 26 fatalities. Is that a day, a week, a month, a year? What you'll notice in this synopsis is no timeline is given. I was concerned about how much time it would take to find that figure. Luckily, Dr. Raynor explains this to us.
Through a systematic review of case reports, Ernst only found 26 fatalities adequately reported in approximately 80 years of literature. Dr. Ernst makes another great point. Even if it were merely a remote possibility, the precautionary principle in healthcare would mean that neck manipulation should be considered unsafe until proven otherwise. Hey Chris. Yes, Chris? Can you say that again for the people in the back? Even if it were merely a remote possibility, the precautionary principle in healthcare would mean that neck manipulation should be considered unsafe until proven otherwise. Add to that the fact that reliable estimates of the frequency of vascular accidents are prevented by the fact that underreporting is known to be substantial. In a survey of UK neurologists, for instance, underreporting of serious complications from chiropractors was 100%.
I believe this is the article that Dr. Raynor is referencing. The article tells us that various practitioners use manipulation, that treatments are generally perceived as safe, that between the years 1925 and 1997, 177 cases of severe injury were reported. This article gives some statistical probabilities of injuries per manipulations by interviews from different practitioners in different parts of the world. This article also states that calculations based on insurance claim data suggest that among U.S. chiropractors, there is 1 stroke per 2 million manipulations. This is a positive statistic that could have been mentioned. At the end of this article, the authors state, nor do we know who did the manipulations or why. In many cases, the practitioner carrying out the manipulations and the reason for the treatment is not known. Now, if I have referenced the wrong article, then that's on me. But if this is the article that Dr. Raynor is referencing, the way in which I read it is a far different cry from.
In a survey of UK neurologists, for instance, underreporting of serious complications from chiropractors was 100%.
Now, if Dr. Raynor is correct and chiropractic underreporting is 100%, I'm curious how medical institutions fare. New study finds medical error rates are underreported. Dr. David Klassen, a professor at the Medical School of the University of Utah, found that about 90% of all hospital mistakes go unreported. He states you just cannot rely on doctors and nurses to admit they've made mistakes. Here's another article discussing the problem of medical underreporting. Common barriers to reporting medical errors. This article pulled information from several studies, including 8 from the United States. Underreporting of medical errors is a common and a challenging obstacle in the fight for patient safety. Here's another article, Barriers to Medical Error Reporting. The study was conducted to explore the prevalence of medical errors underreported and associated barriers. This was done in 5 hospitals in Iran. I want to point out that human behavior is consistent around the planet. In the States, Iran, medicine, or chiropractic. If we take a much more global approach, human beings make mistakes and wish to hide those mistakes. These articles give us a much more balanced view as we watch Dr. Raynor explain the dangers of chiropractic. Now getting back to his cover.
Let's get back to the matter at hand. Cervical artery dissection.
Unfortunately, this is an extremely rare but well-known complication of this intervention.
For my part, I'm glad that we have a neurologist with clinical experience who can quote a similar number.
The risk of this occurring is estimated to be around 1 in 100,000 to 1 in 1 million.
He goes on to say,
also, this is essentially an idiosyncratic, unpredictable event, probably not related to the technique itself.
And I want to commend him on his scientific and unbiased treatment of this issue at hand. Admittedly, we don't hear about this type of thing happening often, so 1 in 100,000 might not be an inflated number. But then again, during my research for this video, I found estimations as high as 1 in 20,000 spinal manipulations result in a vertebral artery aneurysm or dissection and ischemic infarct.
Now, as chiropractors, we already know 1 in 20,000 is bullshit. According to NCMIC, which is the insurance carrier for 50% of chiropractors in the States, there are 43 million cervical spinal manipulations per year. If our injury rates were 1 in 20,000, we'd be stroking out about 2,100 patients per year. Imagine what our insurance rates would be if we injured patients that frequently. Do you think we could get this type of coverage for $1,300 a year if we injured 1 in 20,000 patients? Let's look at this article that Dr. Raynor's referencing. An estimated 1 in 20,000 spinal manipulations results in a vertebral artery dissection and ischemic infarct, but the exact incidence of this complication is unknown. There is a significant difference between 1 in 20,000 and 1 in unknown. This is where 3 medical doctors put their opinion in print, had it published, and gave it the air of accurate figures. So apparently the threat of a chiropractic injury is dependent on who you ask. It's either 1 in 2 million, 1 in 1 million, 1 in 100,000, 1 in 20,000, and 1 in unknown. While I'm not a fan of these styles of chiropractic, I can't say the danger to these patients is the threat of a stroke. The danger to these patients is the overstimulation of their neurons, and the way in which that happens is due to overstimulation of joint mechanoreceptors affecting proprioception. All right, let's close out this video with the tale of the tape. Medicine versus chiropractic. Medical mistakes contribute to the death of 7,150 people per year, or 19 people per day. Chiropractic mistakes cause the death of 26 people in 80 years. Medicine kills more patients in 2 days than chiropractic has done in 80 years. Simply so we have a fair comparison, 90% of medical errors go unreported, and according to Dr. Raynor, 100% of chiropractic mistakes go unreported. This article from the UK estimates that 1 in 20 patients are affected by preventable patient harm, with 12% of this group suffering from permanent disability or dying because of this harm. And the chances of you receiving harm from a chiropractic cervical manipulation is 1 in 2 million. One of the things that intrigues me and is perplexing is Dr. Ezard Ernest is the doctor that gave us the estimate of 26 deaths in 80 years. He's also the author that gives us this estimated statistic of 1 stroke per 2 million manipulations in the US. And yet he still has this opinion of which Dr. Raynor or Chris repeats.
Even if it were merely a remote possibility, the precautionary principle in healthcare would mean that neck manipulation should be considered unsafe until proven otherwise.
By any statistical standard, medicine is far more dangerous than chiropractic. At this point, I think it is simply a cultural norm for medical doctors to be taught in medical institutions that chiropractic kills, and that everyone who receives a cervical adjustment also receives a stroke and a vertebral artery dissection. This is a demonstration of how a thought can permeate a community and be carried by that community for generations. Dr. Raynor is smart, but he's also a human being. And human beings have a tendency, especially smart ones, to overstep their knowledge base. The most important topic in the next video will be to refute Dr. Raynor's statements around proprioception.
Chiropractic manipulation cannot restore strength or flexibility, nor can it restore proprioceptive function or mobility.
If chiropractic adjustments do not affect proprioception, then chiropractic adjustments do not work. Yeah, that won't be necessary. Thank you, Dr. Raynor, for giving me the opportunity to communicate the safety of chiropractic in response to your video.